This episode of The Reality Check is brought to you by HelloFresh. Forget takeout. HelloFresh delivers all the ingredients for delicious, healthy meals anyone can prepare at home in less than 30 minutes. And HelloFresh is giving our Canadian checkers 50% off their first order. Go to hellofresh.ca and use promo code REALITY50 to get 50% off your first order. That's hellofresh.ca, promo code REALITY50. This is your reality check.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, your weekly Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. This is producer Pat, and we have a bit of extra content for you this week. Adam and Darren had the chance to have a sit-down with friend of the show, Professor Jim Davies, and we'll bring you that interview in the new year. However, they also talked to him about an opinion piece he wrote regarding programming good ethics into artificial intelligence. I hope you enjoy their discussion with Jim Davies, and Christina and I will be back later this week with the year-end parody show. Talk to you then.
We have a special guest, Jim Davies.
Good day.
Good day, Jim. Jim is a friend of the show, as you know from past episodes, associate professor at the Institute of Cognitive Science at Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada. And Jim had an opinion piece published in Nature in October about programming good ethics into artificial intelligence, and we thought we'd have him on the show to talk about it. For a bit of context, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and Stephen Hawking have been talking about the threat of artificial intelligence, and many journalists think that if artificial intelligences become conscious, they'll become a threat to humanity. And Jim has some interesting thoughts on this matter. Jim.
Thanks for having me on the show. There's a lot of talk about, what happens when the computers wake up and they decide to take over. And I was reading these things, and as a cognitive scientist, I know that consciousness in human beings is a very small part of what we do. It's a little like the surface of the ocean, where the rest of the ocean is the rest of your mind. And I really wanted to make a point that consciousness is not a necessary or sufficient part of AIs being dangerous or helpful or anything like that. So I think it's kind of a red herring, really. You can have a very dangerous piece of software that has no consciousness, and you can have a very good piece of software that has it. If you think about other processes in the world, we can have, like, a virus can be a devastating effect on the world, and that's not only is it not conscious, it's arguably not even alive. It's so simple. So, I was concerned a little bit that people were worrying a little bit too much about, preventing consciousness, right? So if we're worried about computers of the future being a danger, should we take steps to make sure that they don't ever become conscious? And I think that's a misguided concern.
One of the parts you raised in the article is that humans can do many, many things without being conscious. So why are we so concerned about that for artificial intelligence?
Right. We do most things we do we're not conscious of, and that's easy to forget because obviously we're not conscious of the things we're not conscious of. And it took humanity a long time to even realize that we do things unconsciously. And, way back in time, we thought that it was godly inspired. We had no notion that the unconscious was really at work. We know it better now, but we still can drastically underestimate it. Sometimes when you drive home, if you're driving home and you've done the route many times, you don't need your conscious processing to really do it. You can do a very complex task that we're just now getting computers able to do, I might add, completely unconsciously. And you have no memory of it in particular. You've been thinking about other things the whole time. I think the reason that people get interested in consciousness and they want to relate it to the problem is that it's very hard for us to imagine doing something as complicated as taking over the world, for example, without thinking about it deliberately and making a plan. And, people might be right about that. It might be too complicated to do unconsciously. But the fact is, we really don't understand consciousness well enough to know. We don't really know what it's for. We definitely don't know for sure how to detect it in some arbitrary agent like a computer or even animals. And we don't know whether a non-conscious piece of software, we don't know what it could do while still remaining unconscious. It could turn out that you can't make a piece of software that can do all the things a human can do without it being conscious. Mm-hmm. But it also might turn out that we can. And maybe we can never make conscious computers, or maybe they have to be conscious. And we know so little right now that it's definitely premature to get too worked up about it.
The conscious part.
Right.
exactly.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that they won't be a danger. They might be a danger someday. I'm just saying whether they are or not, we don't know if consciousness is relevant.
So I think the example you gave about driving is very interesting. Often people wondered, like, what would it feel like to be a different type of organism or to be a different type of person in a different state? And they have trouble imagining sort of existing without being consciously aware, even though that is often their frequent state. They're just not aware of that part of it. So I think the driving one is one that I usually give as an example, because I will say, like, what did it feel like when you were driving and not paying attention? Like, well, nothing at all. You're like, right. That's what it feels like, the absence of feeling. I was also thinking in terms of what we decide is a complex task or not. Driving itself is very complicated. As you said, we're just getting machines being able to do it. But if you take the larger view of what the human organism is capable of in terms of circulating blood and its various neural processes or its respiratory apparatus, all of that is exceptionally complicated and happening, of course, without almost any conscious input whatsoever.
Yes, absolutely. Another example I like to give of like what it's like to be unconscious, asking people what the world looks like to their elbow. That's clearly something that they it's not that your elbow sees blackness or something. It's just that it's completely unconscious. I think another interesting wrinkle about this is that human beings are often more ethical because of cognitive empathy. And this is in your personal interactions and not in your effective altruism stuff, Darren. But they found that if people either because they are instructed to or they spontaneously have sort of an emotional contagion, what we call affective empathy or empathic concern, that they can actually be more compassionate to other people. So, if computers end up a lot like people, it actually might be that a conscious computer cares for us more than a computer that's unconscious.
I think that's a very interesting point. And so it could be there's something about our neural architecture that links consciousness and some notion of empathy. But regardless of that, with a conscious computer, you might have a chance. With the unconscious one, it sounds like you have less of a chance.
Yeah, maybe. And then, but I'm also, now that I'm sitting here with you, it's the first time I thought about it, but, I know with the effective altruism, I know there's research showing that people who have more emotional empathy are actually more subject to making ethical local decisions to the detriment of people that are far away. So, maybe a conscious robot in your house would be nicer to you, but a computer that's in charge of the entire world maybe shouldn't be feeling individuals' pains here and there.
My conscious robot who cleans is going to feel more empathy for the fridge and then attack the people in the house or something weird like that. Adam's
bringing up a common idea that it's going to be machines versus humans, and this is... We have a lot of great movies about that, right? Yeah. Terminator and stuff. And there's some scientists out there that think that it's actually going to be more like it is now, which is a bunch of humans with their computers versus a bunch of other humans with their computers. And there are scholars who disagree. Some people have the vision that we're going to be so integrated with computers that it's not going to make any sense to talk about us versus them. It's going to be humans with their implants versus robots on the side of certain humans and everything else, and it won't be your fridge against you. But it also might be that once computers get to a certain level of intelligence and they can start making themselves more intelligent, they're going to vastly outpace any interface progress that we make. We think about artificial intelligence sometimes in a bubble, and it's very easy for people in my field to do it because I'm a cognitive scientist, but there are a whole lot of real practical problems with robotics, for example, that have nothing to do with AI. Batteries, for example, a really big problem. The reason when you watch like Big Dog and these other robots, they're like running on gas motors because we don't have the battery power to have them do more than run 50 feet. Makes research really hard because you got to do it outside because you can't have the gas, you can't have a lawnmower running in your lab all day, But often when they are working in the lab, they're tethered with a power cord because the battery power just isn't there. So we're not going to have massive robotic droids running around like we do in Star Wars until we solve battery problems.
So we have a few years, I think, at least.
Yeah.
From what I've seen of those Boston Dynamics videos where they're outside in the snow walking
You might have
around.
to plug in your sex bot to keep it going.
I can work with that.
That's how you get turned on, right? Literally and figuratively. So what are we going to do about this? You talked about programming good ethics into AI, and how might one actually do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't really have a great answer for it, but I'll tap dance for you. I think that it's a very, very big problem because so many people in so many capacities are working on artificial intelligence, and we just don't know which one is going to take off. We don't know if it's going to be some small startup. We don't know if it's going to be somebody in their basement or if it's going to be a big government-funded project. We just don't know. And it's happening all over the world across many nations. So I advocate trying to come up with an ethical plan, an ethical code that software is supposed to follow, and then we just try to market it so that people working on AI, on artificial intelligence, with hope, will follow this code, but I don't see a way to practically enforce it.
That's unfortunate, but I know there are other people working on it. So for the interested listener, there is the Future of Life Institute that Max Tegmark is associated with, trying to deal with these issues and hand out grants to people working in computer science and AI to try to solve some of these problems. There's the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, MIRI, which is trying to bring about friendly AI. And then I think recently the Open Philanthropy Project granted $5 million to create a sort of research institute hub in Berkeley to also address friendly AI issues. So some people are working on it, and hopefully they're doing a good job.
Yeah, we hope. And part of it's we're limited by our imaginations regarding what a super intelligent AI would be capable of doing, because we're used to thinking of ethics in terms of things that a person could possibly do, but a person can't make 100 million Skype calls in 5 seconds, and a person can't do this and that. So will our ethical codes as they stand scale well to what an AI that's super intelligent and very powerful might think to do? Well, we'll see.
That's a very interesting example, because I was picturing not just say 100 million Skype calls. Imagine like it sends out 3 billion texts, and they'll just go, hey. And every human every human just like, they just look down. And that's it.
You get the whole world that goes to the AI.
Exactly. Well, hopefully the future won't be too bleak, and it will be a delightful event for all of us who live to see it. And thank you for your time, Jim.
You're so welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at @TRC_podcast.